Now, all around the world, we are seeing property prices at very high levels. There is definitely a real estate bubble going on, and many countries are seeing prices which are so unaffordable to the locals. And this would indicate that potentially we could be seeing in a lot of markets a house price collapse. Now, a lot of countries could have made my list for the top 5 most expensive and overvalued markets in the world. For example, New Zealand, which has gone through a property boom, but where prices are starting to drop. And of course, the USA definitely could have made this list. And we all know the USA prices are really high, in particular in places like Austin, which has gone through an incredible boom in the housing market. But they don't make my top 5. My top 5 are the following. And coming in at number 5 is the country of Australia. Now, Australia, it's incredible that in a place like Sydney, it's now typical to see a property over 1 million Australian dollars. It's the norm, and this is very expensive for the locals. So as far as price to income ratio is concerned, we are talking about 10 in Sydney, but even Melbourne is very expensive at 7. And rental yields are very low in Australia, and there has been slowing GDP growth and increasing debt, although debt levels in Australia are still very low compared to other markets. But nevertheless, I think Australia is a market that could potentially see a heavy correction in the next few years. And indeed, Sydney and Melbourne prices are going down. Now, coming in at number 4 is Canada, and I'm sure a lot of you will not be surprised Canada has made the list. Now, Canada has higher levels of inventory coming onto the market, but fewer sales, and this is a bad sign. And if we look at cities like Vancouver, Toronto, Mississauga, all price to income ratios are above 10, and the yields are not great either. And Montreal is at 9 as well when it comes to price to income ratio, so that is high. And if we look at the average price in January 2020, it was 504,000 Canadian dollars, but by January 2022 this had gone up to 748,000 Canadian dollars. This is incredibly high. And one reason why Canada has made the list and not the US is because there are many cities, or small towns I should say actually in Canada, small cities, small towns, where the average property price is higher than many large US cities. And for this, Canada has made the top 5. Although I have to say in places like Edmonton, house price affordability for the locals is still not too bad. Now, coming in at number 3, and this may actually surprise a few of you, but it is actually a country in Europe, and it is Austria. Now, Austria has made it because if you look at Vienna and Innsbruck, look at the price to income ratio. It's above 15 in both cities, and the actual gross yields in both cities are well below 3%. And these are all signs that the housing market is in trouble. And even in Salzburg, it's over 11, and the yields are below 3. Now, having a look at Vienna in particular, the average price per square meter in Vienna is between 5 to 10,000 euros, and in District 1 it's about 18,000 euros, which is incredibly high. And even in Salzburg on average you are looking at 7 to 11,000 euros per square meter, again incredibly high. And what we're seeing in Austria is higher debt levels, stagnation in growth, and also taxes in Austria are very high as well. Both capital gains tax and rental income tax are very high, and this is the reason why Austria has made my top 5. Now, coming in at number 2, and this is a basket case I think of a country when it comes to property, and it is Hong Kong. Now, the price to income ratio in Hong Kong is a mega 42. 42, and the yield is about 1.6. All these indicators say that Hong Kong at some time or other will have to have a massive correction. And it is the second most expensive market in the world after Monaco. And if you look at stamp duty for foreigners at 30%, it's not a market that you really want to invest in. And another thing we have to take into account is the rising tensions in Hong Kong, between Hong Kong and China. And Hong Kong could potentially lose its position as the top stock broking market in Asia. Also, we are seeing a bit of a brain drain as well in Hong Kong. A lot of nationals from Hong Kong, younger and intelligent, are moving to countries like the United Kingdom. Again, that is not good for the real estate market. And a lot of Hong Kong has not been built on yet. There is only a small area of Hong Kong that has been built, so only 25% of it is urbanized. Now, if the rest were to get urbanized, we are going to see prices very, very depressed. And again, there is corruption, as I said in another video on Hong Kong, when it comes to the real estate market. So for this reason, Hong Kong is number 2 on my list, and I think Hong Kong is going to have a massive correction at some time in the future. And coming in at number 1, and I think this should not be a surprise to any of you, it is the country of China. Now, China is an absolute basket case when it comes to the real estate market. It is in big, big trouble, and we've seen it all over the net with articles on the news. But let's delve into the facts a little bit. Let's look at the price to income ratio in some of the major cities. Beijing, 56, Shanghai, 51, Shenzhen, 40, and Guangzhou, 39. These are incredibly high. And if we look at Numbeo, 4 of the top 10 most unaffordable places for the locals are in China, and the yields are below 2%. Now, we have to say, when you have these levels of yields and price to income ratios, it's a sign that the housing market, I think, could well collapse in China, and Chinese banks could face up to 350 billion in losses from the property crisis due to the mortgage boycott and slowing growth in the market. Now, China also has many other problems. It has a very low birth rate and an aging population. So, as I said in another video on China, the population is due to drop. So not only are we seeing incredibly high prices, unaffordability, but population is going to drop. And we can't ignore as well that debt levels are going up in China. So whether we're talking about corporate debt, government debt, or household income debt, they are all on the rise. And look at the tensions as well between China and Taiwan, and China and the West. All these factors are also going to play negatively on the real estate market. And I'm afraid as well, there are lots of empty property in China, and this again is going to be a very negative factor. Anyway, that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree that these are the top 5? Which other countries would you have put in this list? And again, thanks ever so much for watching, and I shall see you soon on the next video.